very, very hard with Qualcomm to deliver and bring up, and we've gotten tremendous interest from a lot of other companies who are looking and say, wow, we can do a lot in doing that. But that's not all. There's the right-hand side of this, that once you have a hardware root of trust existing in a device, you can use it for services. You can use it for anything on the downstream. So a handset customer might want to have certain features that they provision, and they want to do it securely. They might have a software application, something like Netflix, that wants to use digital rights management software and wants to have a hardware root of trust to have a more secure one, and they might want to have it. So having a ubiquitous hardware root of trust makes not just the supply chain in the semiconductor industry better, but the entire systems and the applications that go on downstream. So we're just focused on the left, the dark blue, trying to help the semiconductor industry make more secure and better parts. But the upside of this, as you're thinking here in India about new businesses and new ventures, this is a perfect opportunity to do something incredibly cool. Now let me go back to the semiconductor area and actually couple with one of the things I made 2 years ago and the points on some of the challenges on developing semiconductors and why the venture capital money is dried up, at least in the Valley. And it's actually contained in this chart in a slightly different form than I showed it before. This chart shows in gold the design cost in millions of dollars by technology node, and the number of fundamental IP blocks that get stitched together in the design per node. And you can see it goes from about 15 to $20 million in 16 IP blocks and 90 nanometers to 164 million for a design, and about 190 IP blocks. This is just Moore's Law. This is something that we've known forever. It's just going on and on and on. The difference is, when you made a mistake on a mask set, or you said, well, I want to do a chip that has a little more function here and a little less function there, one of the things you can do is put it all together and just blow fuses, so physically take things off and on. That works fine. But it's becoming more and more challenging to do that as you go at larger scale chips. And it makes more economic sense to do fewer chips and put everything in, because the cost for the infinite number of transistors is so small. So the industry has been consolidating. There's fewer and fewer companies doing these kind of mass scale chips, and there's more and more IP blocks that are put on them. So when you have all of these IP blocks and you want to configure it for different segments or for different customers, and think about it, you can even do it downstream. Well, the way the industry does it today is to blow fuses. So you make physical disconnections so that functionality isn't used on the chip. That's great, but it's an irreversible process. So once it's set, you can't change it. So if you make a mistake in your supply chain, by the time you bring it out, and it takes many, many months to get things out into the supply chain, it's rather complicated. So there is a better way to do it, and that's to have a small cryptographic processor and cryptographic keys, and you provision the various IP blocks based on what you want the chip to be. And guess what? You can actually, with something like our crypto manager, you can offer that as a service to your customers. What happens if your customer orders a particular configuration and later on they see that the demand changes and they really need a different configuration? They would have to scrap those chips. Then they'd have to come back and go through the 6-month cycle to get more chips. That's not a really great way to do it. What happens if you just allowed them for a small fee to reconfigure those devices? That's what we're doing, and that's what's so cool about it. So you can take a very flexible way to personalize a device, and I think as you look at 20 nanometers and beyond, and definitely at 10 nanometers where you have just an infinite transistor budget, an infinite FET performance, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of blocks of IP, and the most effective way is to put as much as you can into the chip and then provision it dynamically and make it the last thing that gets done, not early in the process, and then even offer features and capabilities for your customer's customer. So what do we think then this enables? Well, it goes back to what I said. Once this is actually established, and we're working very proactively to do it with Qualcomm and many other customers that we're engaged with now, you also have a way to secure and simplify an in-field provision. So anything that you want to change, anything that you want to update, any kind of service that you want to have, any kind of software that you want to put with it, and you want to use that hardware root of trust to really make sure that that software is the right software, it already exists. That cost to add it is nothing, and you can actually buy the capability that we have, or you can have other people to develop it and actually use that in downstream mode. So what do we think? What's the real opportunity here for the industry? The opportunity is rather obvious. Right? Security is a huge problem. There's breaches all over the place. To the extent that we can put a hardware root of trust in the chips, and then we can have a way to make that through an ecosystem presenting that service to customers, and I'm talking about any downstream customer. Here we just show a few of them in terms of media, financial transactions, or a smart home. You have a complete end-to-end solution that eliminates much of the problems in security that today is just not covered, or it's covered very lightly with software that's inherently unreliable. So we think that semiconductors have a huge opportunity. If I was looking at a startup now, if I was younger, if I was here with some of the most brilliant engineers on the planet, this is one of the areas I would be looking at. It's one of the areas where I think you could really make something relevant. The industry is open. I think Rambus is taking a leadership role in trying to show with our partner Qualcomm what the industry could do, but we are just scratching the surface on this and really finding a way to help all of our customers. So what is it? What's the theme, if I would say anything? We want to have remote-controlled IP. You want to do it over the air, push button, have your ability to configure dynamically the chips that you make, be able to minimize the supply chain, be able to let customers say, I ordered the wrong thing, let me change it in a different way, or offer services to their customers and their customers' customers. Secure, robust, dynamic, and easy to do remote-controlled IP. So, if you have to think about one thing, right, if you want to look at it in Google, something tonight when you go home and you're kind of at all interested in this talk, look at hardware root of trust and think about the Internet of Things and the problems that exist that your companies may be able to find a solution for. And as I've said in the past, with the great engineering talent, I think India is particularly well positioned to do exactly that. Thank you very much.